There's a secret literacy problem in the diversity and inclusion field that no one is talking about. And I need your help to fix it. I'm Dr. Jonathan Ashong Lamptey. I work with people leaders to design inclusive organizations, and I'm on a mission to help 1 million people like you to make your workplace inclusive. Get your pen and paper ready because I'm going to explain the literacy problem that people in diversity and inclusion are hiding from. It's been said that the average CEO reads 50 books a year. Apparently Bill Gates reads 50 books a year. Mark Zuckerberg reads a book every 2 weeks. But to be honest, I don't even know if this is true. I haven't seen any research or data to support this. But all the top leaders that I engage with, they do make time to read. They want to get time to get new ideas, to get the best thinking from other people who have spent a lot of time thinking and working on something that they simply don't have the time to. But that said, there is one place where I think that there is a literacy issue, and that's diversity and inclusion as a whole. But in particular, diversity and inclusion leaders. Now, this is an observation of mine, but it's not just my opinion. I've spoken with several leaders in the past few weeks, and it's clear to me that a lot of them don't read as much as they should. And if they do, they tend to read popular books. I always like to ask, what do you get out of the book? How is it useful? And a lot of people aren't able to say how it's helped them in the workplace. Now, that's a minority of people. The majority of D&I leaders who I speak to, they often have a pile of books, but they can't make the time to read them because they've got so much to do. They feel as if they don't have the time. Does this sound like you? This is a potential issue. A lot of people who are responsible for diversity and inclusion, they often find themselves in a new role. They used to work in HR or talent, but they're not subject matter experts. And I've said it before, the D&I leaders of the future, they don't have to be subject matter experts. They'll be curators of knowledge, but they still need to have a critical mass of knowledge. Contrary to what a lot of people will tell you, I don't think it's essential to have a lived experience in order to be effective in this space. That's a whole different show, but of course everyone has some lived experience. But what you do need is to know what you're talking about. And is reading a book the complete answer? No, but neither is a superficial understanding of the issues. Every week I meet people in organizations and they ask me to define diversity and inclusion. This is often because it hasn't been conceptualized for them in a meaningful way. Now, I don't know who's responsible for that, but if you look at how diversity and inclusion are defined in books, it's also not clear. Here, we say that diversity as a management approach recognizes that individuals have differences and that there's value in those differences. Inclusion is a systematic business strategy to ensure that everyone shares the same benefits and the same advantages. We want everyone to reach their potential. In practice, this means that everyone can belong and everyone can perform. The challenge is that if you're responsible for diversity and inclusion, you're expected to deliver a strategy that is going to give you an inclusive organization. Now, this is going to be difficult if you don't have much experience, you don't read enough books, and you don't read enough research to be able to see what's useful and what isn't. You still need that critical mass of knowledge. And don't forget, you're going to get a lot of advice from people who know only a little bit more than you do. I read a lot of books in this space, and I don't just mean books on race, gender, religion. I mean books that explore the challenges of creating an inclusive workplace. But there's not as many good books out there as you might think. I know this because when you've read enough of these books, if you start to do it properly, you start to think more critically. If you like Chinese food and you eat it in enough different restaurants, even if you're not trying, you're going to recognize the better restaurants that use better ingredients and have better service. You're going to realize what works for you. In terms of diversity and inclusion, the more knowledge you have in this space, the more you're going to address the 3 biggest problems that organizations experience on their journey. Specifically the one related to performance, the business case for diversity. You're going to get a better understanding of how diversity and inclusion should show up in your organization without having to rely on generic arguments that just don't work for you. As a regular listener, you know I review books on the show and people seem to like the reviews, but whenever I ask anyone what they think of the book, they tell me that they didn't read the book for themselves. Now, they liked the review, but the problem is that's my perspective and it's influenced by my own lens. And also, I'm reviewing it in a way that I can communicate to you. There's loads of things that I read and that I pick up on that I don't mention because I'm trying to make it into a punchy show that you're going to listen to instead of falling asleep. The truth is, I want you to develop your own opinions on this because that benefits all of us. So why don't we work together on this? In 2020, I want to launch a book club. I'm going to continue to review books in the way that I always do, but I want us to meet in person and maybe even virtually to discuss the book. It's not a lecture, it's going to be a discussion. And I want this to be collaborative so we can even decide together which books that we read. Suppose we do this 10 times in 2020. We're going to need 10 different organizations that are willing to host a book club. Now, I don't know if 2 people are going to come or if 200 people are going to come. Either way, I'm willing to commit to this in 2020, and I want you to commit too. If your organization wants to be seen to be doing something around diversity and inclusion, or even better, if your organization actually wants to do something around diversity and inclusion, this seems to me to be a no-brainer. And here's the other thing. As an alpha geek, I can read really fast. Not because of any superior gifts that I have, but because when you do a PhD, it's necessary to read a lot, to read quickly, and to understand what you read. And this is particularly important at the beginning when you don't have a clue because you're new to the topic. As part of this book club, I'm going to give you some tips on how to dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase your reading speed and comprehension. If you like audiobooks, then maybe this isn't for you, especially if you consistently put what you hear into practice. My experience is that doesn't happen that much. But this isn't just about the content. The value comes from discussing this content, discussing what's in the book with others, especially when they disagree with you. That's when the real learning happens. So for the rest of us, I think that this is a great way to increase what you read as part of a community, and by doing so, we're going to benefit the people around us. Now, if you're not already doing this, why don't you do it with us? So let's wrap this up. What are the key messages here? 1. People concerned with diversity and inclusion don't read as much as they should. 2. I want to start a book club so that we can all learn together. And 3. I need your help to either attend or host the book club. If any of this interests you, please like it. The more likes I get, the more I'm going to see if people are up for this or not. If any of this doesn't interest you, well, you've come this far, so you might as well like it and share it with someone who you think will benefit from it. In any case, get in touch or leave a message because I would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.